20 black celebrities who got divorced several times. We celebrate them as gods of music, titans of the screen, and heroes of civil rights. But behind the golden statues and standing ovations lies a graveyard of broken vows. From Richard Pryor's 7 trips to the altar to Marvin Gaye's self-destructive obsessions, these icons conquered the world while losing the battle for their own homes. Was their genius a gift from the heavens or a curse fueled by the very heartbreak that nearly destroyed them? On Black Excellence Legends, we strip away the glamour to reveal the raw human cost of greatness. Subscribe now and tell us, is legendary success worth a life of personal chaos? Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder, the virtuoso whose influence on R&B and soul is immeasurable, has experienced a personal life as intricate and layered as his most famous compositions. Beyond the 25 Grammy Awards and the timeless melodies of songs in the key of life, Wonder's journey through matrimony reflects a man constantly searching for harmony. His first foray into marriage occurred in 1970 with Sarita Wright, a fellow Motown singer and songwriter. Although their union lasted only 2 years, it was a creative triumph. The pair continued to collaborate professionally long after the romantic spark faded, proving that mutual respect can survive a legal dissolution. Following a long period of bachelorhood and other significant relationships, Stevie entered his second marriage in 2001 with fashion designer Kai Millard Morris. This chapter of his life was marked by a sophisticated public presence. Yet behind the scenes, the couple eventually drifted apart, leading to a separation in 2009 and a finalized divorce in 2015. Despite the legal complexities and the challenges of co-parenting, Wonder maintained his characteristic grace. In 2017, the legendary musician found love once more, marrying Tamika Bracey in a star-studded ceremony. As a father to 9 children from 5 different women, Wonder's family tree is a sprawling testament to his belief in the power of connection. He has often navigated these transitions with a focus on unity rather than discord. For Stevie, the end of a marriage has never signified a failure of the heart, but rather a bridge to a new understanding of what it means to love and be loved. His life demonstrates that even when the rhythm changes, the song of a devoted father and artist remains steadfast. Cicely Tyson. Cicely Tyson was more than a cinematic icon. She was a sovereign of the screen who commanded respect through every role she inhabited and every challenge she faced in her private world. Her personal history, much like her illustrious career spanning 7 decades, was marked by a fierce independence and a refusal to settle for anything less than spiritual truth. Tyson's first walk down the aisle took place in 1942 when she wed Kenneth Franklin at the tender age of 18. This brief union, which produced a daughter she affectionately called Joan in her memoirs, dissolved quickly as the young actress realized that her ambitions and her husband's expectations were at odds. It took years for the legal formalities to conclude in 1956, but by then Tyson had already begun her ascent as a cultural trailblazer. The most publicized chapter of her heart belonged to the jazz visionary Miles Davis. Their connection was electric, a decade-long attraction that finally culminated in a star-studded wedding in 1981, officiated by Andrew Young at the home of Bill Cosby. However, their marriage was a turbulent masterpiece of passion and pain. Davis struggled with infidelity and substance issues, yet Tyson remained a stabilizing force, often credited with helping him return to music during his fallow years. When the marriage eventually ended in divorce in 1988, just years before Davis's passing, it left a void that Tyson filled with her art. She never remarried, choosing instead to dedicate her remaining decades to portraying the dignity of Black womanhood. For Cicely, her divorces were not mere endings, but necessary departures that allowed her to maintain her sanctity. She passed away in 2021 at 96, leaving a legacy where her personal trials never overshadowed her status as a beacon of elegance. Her life taught us that a woman's worth is not defined by the longevity of her marriages, but by the depth of her character. Diana Ross. Diana Ross, the quintessential supreme of Motown, and a global symbol of glamour, has navigated her romantic life with the same poise that defined her legendary stage presence. For an artist whose voice soundtracked millions of love stories, her own path to domestic tranquility was marked by 2 significant marriages and a high-profile romance that blurred the lines between professional mentorship and personal devotion. In the early 1970s, as she transitioned from the leader of the Supremes to a solo powerhouse, She wed music executive Robert Ellis Silverstein. This union, which lasted from 1971 to 1977, gifted her two daughters, including the celebrated actress Tracee Ellis Ross. Despite the dissolution of their legal bond, the pair remained remarkably amicable, establishing a gold standard for co-parenting long before the term became a Hollywood trend. After a period of focusing on her soaring career and her children, the endless love chanteuse found a soulmate in Norwegian shipping magnate Arne Næss Jr. Their 1985 wedding in Switzerland was a fairy tale event reflecting the grand scale of their shared lives. This marriage, which spanned 15 years, brought two sons into the world and provided Ross with a sense of adventurous stability. However, the geographic distance between their lives and the pressures of their respective empires eventually led to a divorce in 2000. Tragedy struck just 4 years later, when Næss perished in a climbing accident, a loss that Ross mourned deeply publicly, honoring him as the love of her life. Today, Diana Ross stands as a matriarch of a vast blended family, emphasizing that her greatest achievement isn't her chart-topping hits, but the unity of her 5 children. Her history proves that multiple divorces do not signify a failure to love, but rather a courageous evolution of the spirit. She remains an enduring icon who chose to define her life by the strength of her maternal bonds rather than the finality of a marriage certificate. Danny Glover. Danny Glover, an actor whose commanding presence in the Lethal Weapon franchise and The Color Purple earned him global acclaim, has navigated his personal life with the same thoughtfulness and dedication he brings to his humanitarian activism. For Glover, the concept of family has always been a central pillar, even as the structure of his marriages evolved over 5 decades. His first journey into matrimony began in 1975 with Asake Bomani, a jazz singer whom he met during his formative years as a student activist. This union was a profound partnership of shared ideals and lasted a remarkable 25 years. Together, they welcomed their daughter Mandisa and built a life rooted in the cultural and political movements of San Francisco. However, in 2000, the couple reached a crossroads, finalizing a divorce that marked the end of an era, but maintained the mutual respect they had cultivated since their youth. After nearly a decade of focusing on his global advocacy work and his career, Glover found love again in Brazil. In 2009, he married Eliane Caballero, a distinguished professor he had met several years prior at the World Social Forum. This marriage represented a fusion of international perspectives and shared intellectual passions. For years, the couple was seen as a stable force in the industry, with Glover embracing his role as a stepfather to Caballero's 2 sons. Yet the quiet complexities of life eventually led to a private separation. By 2022, news surfaced that the couple had officially moved on, with Glover spotted enjoying a new chapter of companionship. Despite 2 divorces, Glover's life remains a testament to the idea that relationships are seasons of growth rather than static destinations. He has never allowed the legal dissolution of a marriage to diminish his commitment to the people he loves. Today, at nearly 80 years old, Danny Glover continues to demonstrate that a life well lived is measured by the quality of one's contributions to the world and the enduring strength of family bonds, regardless of the certificates filed in a courthouse. Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye, the Prince of Motown, whose velvet voice redefined the landscape of soul music, lived a life that was a haunting duality of divine talent and profound personal turbulence. For a man who could articulate the intricacies of desire and Let's Get It On, and the weight of social injustice in What's Going On, his private journey was a relentless search for a peace that often eluded him. Gaye's matrimonial history was defined by 2 intense high-profile unions that mirrored the volatility of his own spirit. His first marriage in 1963 was to Anna Gordy, the sister of Motown founder Berry Gordy. This union was as much a political alliance within the music industry as it was a romance. Spanning 14 years, the relationship was marred by Gaye's struggles with fidelity and the immense pressure of the Gordy empire. Their 1977 divorce was so contentious, it famously inspired his double album, Here My Dear, a raw musical chronicling of their legal and emotional fallout. As the echoes of his first marriage faded, Marvin found a new muse in Jan Hunter. Their connection began when she was just 17, sparking a flame that was both passionate and destructive. They married in 1977, but the relationship was quickly engulfed by Gaye's increasing paranoia and substance abuse. Despite the birth of their 2 children, Nona and Frankie, the household was a battlefield of emotional extremes. Jan later detailed this dance of love and fear in her memoirs, describing a man who was as capable of immense tenderness as he was of terrifying unpredictability. They divorced in 1981, though their bond remained an obsessive on-and-off cycle until his tragic death in 1984. Marvin Gaye's life ended at the age of 44, a casualty of a fractured relationship with his own father. His history of divorce remains a poignant reminder that even the most gifted souls can struggle to find stability in the spotlight. For Marvin, love was never a quiet harbor. It was a storm he chased until the very end, leaving behind a legacy of music that continues to heal the hearts of others, even as his own remained broken. Jan Gay. Janice Hunter Gay, often remembered as the captivating muse behind Marvin Gaye's legendary romantic ballads, lived a life that was both a cinematic dream and a harrowing cautionary tale. Her journey into the public eye began at the age of 17 when she walked into a recording studio and captivated the Prince of Motown. Their connection was instantaneous and electric, leading to a decade of passion that fueled out some of the greatest soul music ever recorded. However, being the partner of a genius like Marvin Gaye came with a staggering emotional cost. Jan became the primary witness to the singer's internal disintegration, navigating a domestic landscape marred by intense jealousy, drug addiction, and psychological warfare. Their marriage in 1977 was supposed to be a new beginning, but it quickly transformed into a volatile cycle of ecstasy and agony. Jan shared in her poignant memoir, After the Dance, that while the love was profound, the reality of their daily life was unsustainable. She functioned as Marvin's emotional anchor, while he battled his darkest demons, yet she often found herself sinking under the weight of his paranoia. Despite the birth of their children, Nona and Frankie, the relationship suffered under the strain of Gaye's erratic behavior. By the time their divorce was finalized in 1981, Jan had experienced a lifetime of heartbreak, yet her bond with Marvin remained an unbreakable spectral presence until his untimely death. In her later years, Jan Gay transformed her survival into a legacy of preservation. She dedicated herself to protecting Marvin's estate and ensuring that his artistic contributions were never overshadowed by his personal tragedies. Her story is not merely one of divorce, but of a woman who reclaimed her identity after being consumed by a legendary flame. She passed away in 2021 at 63, leaving behind a narrative of resilience, proving that one can love a complicated man deeply while still finding the courage to walk away to save oneself. Halle Berry. Halle Berry, the trailblazing actress who shattered glass ceilings as the first Black woman to win the Academy Award for Best Actress, has lived a personal life that is as cinematic and intense as her most celebrated roles. For Berry, the search for a lasting partnership has played out under the unforgiving glare of the global spotlight, marked by 3 high-profile marriages and several complex romantic chapters. Her first marriage in 1993 to professional baseball player David Justice began as a media fairy tale, but ended in 1997 amidst profound emotional distress. Berry was candid about the toll the split took on her mental health, later revealing that the experience brought her to a point of deep despair, yet it also marked the beginning of her journey towards self-discovery and emotional fortitude. In 2001, she found love again with singer-songwriter Eric Benet. This second union was tested by Benet's public struggles with infidelity, leading to their separation in 2003 and a finalized divorce in 2005. Rather than retreating, Berry channeled her experiences into her craft and her burgeoning role as a mother after a subsequent long-term relationship with model Gabrielle Aubry. Her third marriage occurred in 2013 to French actor Olivier Martinez. Though they welcomed a son together, the pressures of international living and personal differences led to a divorce filing in 2015. The legal proceedings were prolonged, concluding only recently, yet Berry navigated the transition with the dignity of a woman who refuses to let her past define her future. Today at 59, Halle Berry appears to have found a serene harmony with musician Van Hunt. Her history of divorce is not a narrative of failure, but one of a woman who possesses the courage to walk away from what no longer serves her soul. She has become a vocal advocate for women's empowerment, proving that a person's value is not anchored to a marital status but to their ability to rise, heal, and love again with even greater wisdom. Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy, the comedic powerhouse whose meteoric rise on Saturday Night Live and legendary status in Hollywood films redefined Black excellence in entertainment, has led a personal life as expansive and vibrant as his cinematic career. For a man who has brought joy to millions through his transformative characters, Murphy's private journey has been a complex tapestry of high-profile romances, 2 marriages, and a profound commitment to fatherhood. His primary and longest matrimonial chapter began in 1993 with Nicole Mitchell. For 12 years, they were one of Hollywood's most admired couples, raising 5 children in an environment Murphy worked hard to keep stable. When they divorced in 2006, it was a seismic shift for the star, yet the transition was marked by a rare level of civility. Murphy and Mitchell established a cooperative co-parenting relationship that remains a blueprint for modern blended families prioritizing the emotional well-being of their children over legal discord. Following this, Murphy experienced a whirlwind and unconventional second marriage in 2008 to film producer Tracy Edmonds. The couple held a symbolic ceremony on a private island in Bora Bora, but the union lasted only 2 weeks before they decided to part ways, never legally validating the marriage in the United States. This brief episode preceded a period of reflection for Murphy, during which he navigated other significant relationships, including a brief but highly publicized link to Melanie Brown of the Spice Girls. Despite the headlines surrounding his various partnerships, Murphy's narrative is defined by the number 10, the total of his children from 5 different women. Today at 64, Murphy has found a steady rhythm with his fiancée Paige Butcher, with whom he has been in a relationship since 2012. Together, they have 2 children, bringing his total brood to a full house of 10. Murphy often describes his children as the brightest part of his life, noting that his career accomplishments pale in comparison to his pride as a father. His journey through divorce and multiple relationships reveals a man who has traded the turbulence of his younger years for a serene, family-centric legacy, proving that love's greatest success is often found in the harmony of a well-adjusted, sprawling family. Chaka Khan. Chaka Khan, the queen of funk, whose volcanic vocals ignited hits like "I'm Every Woman" and "Tell Me Something Good," has lived a life of extraordinary creative highs and complex romantic interludes. Born Yvette Marie Stevens, she adopted the name Chaka during her time as a young activist, signaling a fierce spirit that would eventually carry her through 5 decades of musical dominance and 3 distinct marriages. Her first venture into matrimony occurred at the astonishingly young age of 17 in 1970 to Hassan Khan. While the marriage lasted only a year, it was during this brief window that she became the Chaka Khan the world would soon worship. This early union represented a bridge between her childhood in Chicago and her imminent explosion onto the global stage with the band Rufus. In 1976, at the height of her initial fame, she wed Richard Holland. This chapter of her life was a whirlwind of stardom and the pressures of maintaining a solo career. Yet it also brought her the joy of motherhood with the birth of her son Damien. However, the friction between her rising professional trajectory and the demands of a domestic life led to their divorce in 1980. For Khan, these transitions were often soundtracked by her most intense musical achievements, suggesting an artist who poured her personal upheavals directly into her craft. Her third marriage took place in 2001 to Doug Rashid, a union that saw her navigating the complexities of a mature life in the public eye, while continuing to tour and record as a living legend. Today, at 72, Chaka Khan stands as a testament to survival and self-possession. Beyond her marriages and her daughter Malini, her life is defined by a relentless commitment to her own autonomy. She has navigated the pitfalls of the industry and the heart with a rare candidness, often speaking about the importance of self-love before one can truly partner with another. Her history of divorce is not a collection of failures, but a series of stanzas in a long, powerful song of a woman who refused to let any relationship dim the brilliance of her own light. Michael Strahan. Michael Strahan, the charismatic powerhouse who transitioned from a record-breaking defensive end for the New York Giants to a cornerstone of American morning television, has lived a life characterized by high-stakes transitions. While his professional career, marked by a Super Bowl ring and a Hall of Fame induction, has been a series of triumphs, his personal journey through 2 marriages and 3 engagements has been a more tumultuous narrative played out in the public eye. His first foray into matrimony began in 1992 with Wanda Hutchins in Germany. This early chapter, occurring during the dawn of his NFL career, produced 2 children, Tanita and Michael Jr. Though they divorced in 1996, Strahan maintained a deep cross-continental commitment to his children, proving that distance and legal papers could not sever the bond of a devoted father. In 1999, Strahan entered a second marriage with Jean Mugley, a relationship that would eventually become one of the most publicized and contentious legal battles in celebrity history. The couple welcomed twin daughters Isabella and Sophia in 2004, but the union collapsed shortly thereafter. Their 2006 divorce was marked by a firestorm of accusations and significant financial settlements that dominated headlines for years. Despite the bitterness of the proceeding, Strahan focused his energy on his burgeoning media career and his role as a parent. He later sought companionship with Nicole Murphy, the ex-wife of Eddie Murphy. The pair was engaged for 5 years before ultimately parting ways in 2014, citing the pressures of dual careers in long-distance logistics. Today at 54, Strahan has traded the defensive line for the anchor desk and a more private approach to romance. Since 2015, he has found a steady partnership with Kayla Quick, maintaining a lower profile that suggests a hard-won wisdom regarding the spotlight. His history of divorce and broken engagements reveals a man who has learned that true success is not just about the numbers on a scoreboard or a television rating, but about the resilience required to rebuild one's life after the whistle blows. Strahan remains a beloved figure embodying the idea that a second act applies to the heart just as much as it does to a career. Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou, the majestic voice of American literature and a tireless champion for civil rights, lived a life that was a testament to the transformative power of experience. While she is universally revered for her masterpiece, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, her personal journey through 3 marriages was a profound odyssey of self-discovery, spiritual friction, and a relentless search for independence. Her first foray into matrimony occurred in 1951 with Tosh Angelos, a Greek electrician and aspiring musician. This interracial union was a daring act of defiance against the racial prejudices of the 1950s. However, the marriage was soon fractured by deep spiritual differences. Angelos was a staunch atheist, while Angelo's life was anchored in her devout faith in the Black church. They divorced in 1954, but Angelo famously kept a variation of his surname as her professional moniker, forever weaving that chapter of her life into her global identity. In the early 1960s, Angelo's heart led her to Vusumuzi, make a South African freedom fighter. Their union was a period of intense political awakening, taking her from the streets of New York to the liberation struggles in Cairo and Ghana. Though they were a formidable pair in the eyes of the world, the marriage succumbed to the pressures of their nomadic activist lifestyles and personal volatility, ending in 1963. Her third and final marriage took place in 1974 to Paul Dufault, a Welsh writer and carpenter. This relationship coincided with the height of her literary fame, providing a season of stability and companionship that lasted until their divorce in 1983. Maya Angelou passed away in 2014 at the age of 86, leaving behind a legacy that transcends her marital status. She viewed her divorces not as failures, but as essential lessons in the human condition. For Maya, every heartbreak was grist for the mill of her poetry, and every ending was a prerequisite for a new beginning. She taught the world that a woman's soul is a river that must flow, where it will, proving that resilience is the ultimate, phenomenal trait of a life well lived. Wendy Williams. Wendy Williams, the unfiltered pioneer of urban radio and the indomitable host of The Wendy Williams Show, built a media empire on the foundation of hot topics and brutal honesty. However, behind her signature "How you doing" catchphrase lay a personal life marked by profound betrayal and a high-stakes struggle for autonomy. Williams navigated 2 marriages, the second of which became a public spectacle that mirrored the very gossip she curated for decades. Her first marriage in 1994 to Bert Girigori was a brief 1-year chapter during her ascent in the New York radio scene. Girigori later described the union as strained, suggesting that the persona Williams adopted for her career began to overshadow their domestic reality, leading to a swift divorce in 1995. In 1997, Wendy entered her most significant partnership with Kevin Hunter, who would become both her husband and her manager. For over 20 years, they were a formidable duo, building the Wendy Williams brand into a syndicated juggernaut. However, the facade of a powerful partnership hid a darker reality. Williams later revealed that she had been planning her exit even during her pregnancy with their son, Kevin Jr., due to Hunter's serial infidelity. The breaking point arrived in 2019 when news surfaced that Hunter had fathered a child with another woman. Williams filed for divorce amidst a health crisis and the eventual shuttering of her show, navigating the legal dissolution of her marriage, while the world watched her most vulnerable moments. Today at 61, Wendy Williams faces significant health challenges, including diagnoses of primary progressive aphasia and frontotemporal dementia. Her history of divorce is a poignant narrative of a woman who spent her life speaking everyone else's truth, only to have her own realities shattered by those closest to her. Yet her legacy remains one of resilience. She reclaimed her life from a toxic partnership, proving that even the Queen of Talk has the courage to change the conversation when it no longer serves her spirit. Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman, the five-time NBA champion and Hall of Famer known as the Worm, redefined sports stardom with his defensive brilliance, neon hair, and a defiant embrace of counterculture. However, the same intensity and unpredictability that made him a rebounding legend on the court often translated into a chaotic and fragmented personal life. Rodman's journey through 3 marriages was characterized by impulsive decisions, brief durations, and a long-standing struggle to reconcile his flamboyant public persona with his internal needs. His first marriage to Annie Bakes in 1992, with whom he shares a daughter, Alexis, was a volatile union that lasted a mere 82 days. This set a pattern for Rodman's romantic history, where the initial spark of connection was frequently extinguished by the pressures of his lifestyle and personal volatility. Perhaps the most infamous chapter in celebrity relationship history occurred in 1998 when Rodman wed actress Carmen Electra in Las Vegas. The marriage was a quintessential Vegas wedding, spontaneous, highly publicized, and ultimately fragile. Rodman filed for an annulment just 9 days after the ceremony, claiming he was of unsound mind. Although they attempted a brief reconciliation, the divorce was finalized within 6 months, standing as a stark example of the impulsive nature that defined Rodman's peak years in the spotlight. In 2003, he sought a more grounded life by marrying Michelle Moyer, the mother of his children DJ, and the now famous soccer star Trinity Rodman. While this union lasted longer legally, it was plagued by cycles of separation and reconciliation until their official divorce in 2012. Today, at 64, Dennis Rodman is a figure who has publicly wrestled with the consequences of his past. His history of divorce is deeply intertwined with his journey as a father. His daughter Trinity has been candid about their strained relationship, describing him as a person more than a dad. In recent years, Rodman has used his platform to express regret and a desire for redemption, seeking to heal the fractures within his family. His life serves as a poignant narrative of a man who mastered the art of the rebound on the basketball floor, but spent decades learning how to recover from the emotional rebounds of a life lived without boundaries. Aretha Franklin. Aretha Franklin, the undisputed Queen of Soul, possessed a voice that was a force of nature, a divine instrument that could command respect, celebrate faith, and articulate the deepest pangs of the human heart. Yet while she reigned over the music world, her personal life was a quiet, often painful battleground, where she fought for the very respect she sang about. For Aretha, the journey through 2 marriages and multiple complex relationships was marked by a fierce commitment to her privacy, a trait born from early life traumas that she rarely discussed. Her first marriage in 1961 was to Ted White, a man who also served as her manager during her pivotal transition to Atlantic Records. Though their partnership coincided with the birth of her most legendary hits, the reality behind closed doors was far from harmonious. Reports of domestic abuse and public altercations dogged their 8-year union, leading many to believe that the raw emotion in songs like "I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You" was a direct reflection of her internal suffering. They divorced in 1969, a move that allowed Aretha to reclaim her autonomy, both personally and professionally. In 1978, she found a season of joy and companionship with actor Glynn Turman. Their star-studded wedding at her father's church in Detroit seemed to signal a more stable chapter. As a stepmother to Turman's children, Aretha embraced a new family dynamic, and for a time the pair was celebrated as a Hollywood power couple. However, the pressures of maintaining 2 high-profile careers and the geographic distance caused by her return to Michigan eventually led to their separation in 1982 and a finalized divorce in 1984. Despite the split, the two remained lifelong friends, with Turman famously visiting her at her bedside in her final days. Aretha Franklin passed away in 2018 at the age of 76, leaving behind a legacy defined by her four sons, Clarence Edward Ted Jr. and Keekoff, whom she raised with a protective intensity. Her history of divorce was not a sign of failure, but a testament to a woman who knew when to walk away in order to preserve her dignity. She taught the world that while love is powerful, respect is non-negotiable. Her life proves that even a queen must sometimes weather the storm alone to ensure that her crown remains unshaken. Billy Dee Williams. Billy Dee Williams, the actor whose effortless charisma and smoldering gaze redefined the leading man archetype in films like Lady Sings the Blues and the Star Wars saga, has navigated his romantic life with a complexity that rivals his most enigmatic characters. For a man who became a universal symbol of romantic charm, Williams's private history is a candid narrative of 3 marriages and a lifelong struggle to balance the societal expectations of monogamy with his own fluid artistic nature. His first venture into matrimony began in 1959 with Audrey Sellers. This early chapter, occurring as he was establishing his foothold in the New York theater scene, lasted 4 years. While the marriage dissolved in 1963, it produced his son Corey and provided Williams with his first hard-won lessons on the sacrifices required to sustain a domestic life amidst a burgeoning career. In 1968, as his stardom began to ascend, he married model and actress Marlene Clark. This union, though vibrant and culturally significant during the Black is Beautiful movement, ended in divorce in 1971. Williams has been remarkably transparent in his memoirs, such as What Have We Here?, describing himself as a philanderer, and admitting that the allure of the world often conflicted with the boundaries of traditional marriage. However, his third marriage in 1972 to Terako Nakagami proved to be his most enduring and unconventional bond. Though the couple faced significant turbulence, including a legal separation in 1993, they chose not to finalize a divorce, eventually reconciling and remaining legally wed for over 50 years. Together, they raised their daughter Hanako and Nakagami's daughter from a previous relationship. Today at 88, Billy Dee Williams remains a figure of profound mystery and elegance. He has recently made headlines for his expansive views on gender and identity, describing himself as both feminine and masculine, a perspective that sheds light on the fluid way he has approached his relationships. His history of divorce and reconciliation is not a story of failure, but one of a man who refused to be confined by standard definitions of love. He proves that a life of romance is not about a perfect track record, but about the courage to be honest about one's own nature while maintaining a deep, abiding loyalty to the family he helped create. Evander Holyfield. Evander Holyfield, the legendary 4-time world heavyweight champion known as The Real Deal, displayed a ferocity in the boxing ring that earned him undying respect. However, outside the ropes, his personal life was a complex arena where he struggled to find the same level of discipline and victory. For Holyfield, a man of deep religious conviction, the contrast between his spiritual aspirations and his personal reality was stark. He navigated 3 marriages, each unfolding under the intense scrutiny of the media and the financial pressures of a high-stakes athletic career. His first marriage in 1985 to Paulette Bowen coincided with his Olympic rise and professional debut. The union lasted 6 years, producing 2 children, but eventually succumbed to the strain of Holyfield's burgeoning fame and the difficulties of maintaining a youthful commitment. In 1996, at the height of his fame, following his historic win over Mike Tyson, Evander wed Dr. Janice Itzen. This second marriage, which lasted 4 years, was often highlighted in the press for its connection to Holyfield's faith, as Itzen was a prominent physician. However, the relationship ended in a high-profile 2000 divorce that became a focal point for discussions regarding his massive career earnings. Undeterred in his search for a lifelong partner, Holyfield entered a third marriage in 2003 with Candy Calvana Smith. This union was his most enduring, spanning nearly a decade, but was ultimately marred by legal disputes and allegations of domestic volatility. They finalized their divorce in 2012, a period that also saw Holyfield facing significant financial restructuring. Today at 63, Evander Holyfield is the father of 11 children from 6 different women. His journey through multiple divorces reflects a man who, despite his physical strength, navigated a vulnerable and often disorganized emotional path. He has often spoken about his children as his greatest motivation, working tirelessly to provide for them even after his boxing fortune diminished. Holyfield's story is not a narrative of defeat, but a candid look at the human struggle to reconcile a public legacy of power with the private pursuit of a stable home. He remains a beloved figure who proves that even the strongest warriors must learn that the hardest battles are often fought within the walls of one's own heart. Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali the Greatest was a man whose life was defined by conviction, whether he was standing his ground in the boxing ring or sacrificing his career for his principled opposition to the Vietnam War. However, behind the global icon of strength and charisma lay a personal life marked by a restless search for a love that matched his spiritual evolution. Ali's journey through 4 marriages mirrored his transformation from a young Olympic gold medalist to a global ambassador for peace. His first marriage in 1964 to Sanjay Roy was a whirlwind romance that lasted barely a year. The union dissolved quickly as Roy struggled with the strict behavioral and dress codes of the Nation of Islam, which Ali had recently joined. This early split underscored the central role his faith would play in his personal decisions throughout his life. In 1967, Ali wed Belinda Boyd, who later changed her name to Khalila Ali. This marriage spanned a decade and coincided with some of Ali's most legendary fights, including the Rumble in the Jungle. Together, they had 4 children, Mariam twins Jamila and Rashida and Muhammad Ali Jr. Despite their deep connection, the marriage eventually collapsed under the weight of Ali's increasing infidelities and the public attention surrounding his affair with Veronica Porcher. Porcher became his 3rd wife in 1977, a relationship that lasted 9 years and produced 2 daughters, Hanima and Layla, the latter of whom followed in her father's footsteps as a boxing champion. The final and most stable chapter of Ali's life began in 1986 when he married Yolanda Lonnie Williams, a woman who had been a family friend since her childhood. For 30 years, Lonnie remained his primary caregiver, fiercest advocate, and business partner as he battled Parkinson's disease. Their union, which included the adoption of their son Assad, provided Ali with the serenity he had sought for decades. Muhammad Ali passed away in 2016 at 74, leaving behind 9 children and a legacy of grace. His history of divorce reveals a human side to a superhuman figure, a man who stumbled in his personal relationships but never stopped fighting for the peace and family unity that eventually defined his final rounds. Diahann Carroll. Diahann Carroll was a definitive trailblazer whose elegance and barrier-breaking performances in Julia and Dynasty cemented her as a legend of stage and screen. While she projected an image of effortless poise, her personal life was an intricate odyssey marked by 4 marriages and high-profile romances that often mirrored the dramatic intensity of her career. For Carroll, the pursuit of love was never a flighty endeavor. It was a search for a partner who could match her formidable intellect and independent spirit. Her first marriage began in 1956 to record producer Monty Kaye. This union produced her only child, Suzanne, but the cultural and professional pressures of the era eventually led to their divorce in 1963. Carroll later famously engaged in a passionate 9-year affair with Sidney Poitier, a relationship she described as deeply transformative, yet ultimately impossible due to their respective domestic entanglements. In 1973, she entered a brief impulsive marriage to Freddie Glusman, a Las Vegas boutique owner, which ended in divorce only 4 months later amidst allegations of physical volatility. Undeterred, Carroll sought stability again in 1975 with editor Robert DeLeon. Tragedy struck just 2 years later when DeLeon was killed in a car accident, leaving Carroll widowed and reeling. Her final matrimonial chapter was perhaps her most celebrated, as she wed singer Vic Damone in 1987. Though they were seen as a sophisticated musical duo, their union was plagued by legal separations and reconciliations before ending in a finalized divorce in 1996. Carroll chose not to remarry for the remainder of her life, instead focusing on her legacy as a humanitarian and breast cancer survivor. Diahann Carroll passed away in 2019 at the age of 84, leaving behind a narrative of resilience and uncompromising self-worth. Her history of 4 marriages was not a reflection of failure, but a testament to a woman who refused to stay in any situation that diminished her dignity. She taught the world that a woman can be both soft in her desire for companionship and steel in her commitment to her own peace. For Diahann, life was a grand performance, and she ensured that even her departures were executed with the grace of a true sovereign. Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey, the ubiquitous king of comedy, daytime television, and game shows, has built a global brand on the foundation of relatable wisdom and tough love. However, before he became the world's most famous relationship advisor with his book Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man, Harvey navigated a personal life that was fraught with financial struggle and marital discord. His journey through 3 marriages is a narrative of a man who had to fail repeatedly in the domestic arena to eventually master the art of the successful blend. His first marriage to Marcia Harvey in 1981 began when he was an insurance salesman dreaming of stardom. This union lasted 14 years and produced 3 children, twin daughters Carly and Brandy, and son Broderick, but eventually crumbled under the immense strain of Harvey's decision to quit his job and pursue a precarious career in stand-up comedy. In 1996, Harvey entered his second marriage with Mary Shackelford. This chapter coincided with his meteoric rise on The Steve Harvey Show, but the internal reality was a battlefield. Their 2005 divorce was notoriously contentious, marked by a decade of legal disputes and public accusations that threatened to derail Harvey's wholesome public image. Despite the bitterness, Harvey utilized these experiences to fuel his professional pivot into life coaching. He often credits his third marriage to Marjorie Bridges in 2007 as the turning point that saved his life. Marjorie, whom he had actually met and dated briefly years prior, brought a sense of discipline and spiritual alignment to his world. Today, at 69, Steve Harvey presides over a massive, harmonious blended family consisting of 7 children. He has legally adopted Marjorie's 3 children from her previous relationship, and together they have built an empire centered on family values and generational wealth. His history of 2 divorces is something he discusses with rare transparency, using it as a cautionary yet hopeful tale for his audience. For Steve, marriage wasn't about finding the perfect person on the first attempt, but about becoming the right man to sustain the perfect partnership when it finally arrived. Terrence Howard. Terrence Howard, the Academy Award-nominated actor known for his magnetic intensity and hustle and flow, and his long-running lead as Lucius Lyon in Empire, has a personal life that is as enigmatic and unconventional as his teriology theories. For Howard, the journey through 5 marriages to 3 different women is a complex narrative of repetitive cycles, profound volatility, and a relentless search for a partner who can anchor his brilliant yet restless mind. His marital history is famously recursive. He married his first wife, Lori McComas, in 1989. After a divorce in 2003, the pair remarkably remarried in 2005, only to divorce again in 2007. This early pattern of separation and reconciliation set the tone for Howard's struggle to find a permanent rhythm in his domestic life. In 2010, Howard entered a second brief and highly contentious marriage with Michelle Gent. This chapter became a tabloid fixture plagued by mutual restraining orders and a bitter legal battle over spousal support that lasted for years after their 2013 divorce. However, it was his third wife, Mira Pack, a former model and restaurateur, who would become the most significant anchor in his life. Married in 2013, the couple privately divorced in 2015 while Pack was pregnant. Yet in true Howard fashion, they soon reunited, becoming engaged again in 2018. They have remained partners ever since, raising their 2 sons, Kieran and Hero, in a relationship that seems to have finally weathered the storm through a logic only they fully understand. Today at 56, Terrence Howard lives largely away from the Hollywood machine, focusing on his theoretical work and his family. His history of divorce is not just a list of failed contracts, but a reflection of a man who views the world and love through a nonlinear lens. He has demonstrated a rare willingness to return to the same well, seeking to perfect relationships he once lost. Howard proves that for some, love isn't a straight line from A to B, but a series of evolving circles that eventually hopefully lead back to home. Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor, the undisputed architect of modern stand-up comedy, lived a life that was a raw, unfiltered masterpiece of tragedy and triumph. His brilliance on stage was fueled by a personal life that was nothing short of a firestorm, marked by deep-seated trauma and a desperate recurring need for companionship. Pryor's marital history is perhaps the most prolific in Hollywood history. He walked down the aisle 7 times with 5 different women. This repetitive cycle was a testament to a man who, despite his demons, never lost faith in the idea of a fresh start. His marriages to Patricia Price Shelley Bonus and Deborah Maguire in the 1960s and 70s were often short-lived, struggling to survive the heat of his meteoric fame and his legendary battles with addiction. The most fascinating chapters of Pryor's romantic saga involved the women he married twice. He wed Jennifer Lee in 1981, but the union dissolved after just 1 year. He then married Flynn Belaine in 1986, divorced her in 1987, only to remarry her in 1990 and divorce her again in 1991. However, it was Jennifer Lee who would provide the ultimate full-circle moment. The pair remarried in 2001, 2 decades after their first attempt. Jennifer remained by his side as his primary caregiver and protector as he faced the devastating effects of multiple sclerosis. In those final years, the man who had once been the most volatile figure in entertainment found a quiet, enduring peace in the arms of the woman he had first let go. Richard Pryor passed away in 2005 at the age of 65. His history of 7 marriages and 6 divorces is not merely a statistic of excess, but a poignant map of a wounded soul trying to find a home. He turned his domestic chaos into comedic gold, teaching the world that laughter is the only honest response to the absurdity of the human heart. Pryor proved that while a person may stumble 7 times the 8th step, one toward genuine forgiveness and companionship is the most important one of all. From the rhythmic struggles of Marvin Gaye to the 7-act odyssey of Richard Pryor, the legends featured on Black Excellence Legends remind us that brilliance often walks hand in hand with profound personal upheaval. These icons navigated the complexities of love betrayal and multiple divorces while simultaneously reshaping global culture. Their stories suggest that a successful life isn't defined by a perfect marital record, but by the resilience to rebuild after every heartbreak. This raises a provocative question for our community. Can an artist truly achieve the heights of creative genius without the chaotic emotional fuel that often destroys their private lives?